Check my agenda again. Bear with me a minute.
You're live.
Thank you. How do I get rid of that? Okay. Good afternoon, and I will take a motion to formally open the meeting.
I make a motion to open the meeting.
Second,
I second.
all in favor, aye, or raise hand.
Aye.
Motion's carried, and the meeting is formally opened. Let me just get rid of something here. Okay, so I promise you I lead a more interesting life than spending my days and nights on the Village of Mamaroneck Code of Ethics. But it was, look, there was a lot of snow outside, and there's a virus raging, so I figured, why not? First order of business is, Brian, where are we on the minutes? What have we approved, or what's open? Do you have a recollection of that?
Sorry, we still have to approve December 9.
Okay, and do we have those in final from you?
Yeah, I do. I will after this.
Okay,
meeting.
so is there a motion to approve the minutes of December 9?
I make a motion to approve December 9th minutes.
Is there a second?
I second motion.
Any discussion on this motion? In the absence of discussion, all in favor of approving the minutes of December 9, please signify by saying aye or raising hands. Motion is carried. The minutes of December 9th are approved. Now, on December 11th minutes, Brian, are you still working on those or matching up my edits to the draft?
Yeah, well, you just had like a paragraph missing in your draft.
Okay.
That I added.
All right. Did you return? Is that returned now in final form?
Yeah, it is. I could get it after this meeting.
Okay. Is there a motion to, and have you sent that to us in final, or is it still in draft and edit form? Have I returned that to you?
Yeah, I mean, you gave me your edits and they're not in
Okay.
final. I do those after they're approved.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of December 11?
I make that motion.
Motion to approve the
Second.
minutes.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion for the minutes for December 11?
Wait, I'm sorry. Who motioned that?
Jocelyn.
Any discussion on that motion? If there is no discussion on that motion, all in favor of approving the minutes of December 11th, please signify by saying aye or raising hands. The motion is carried. The minutes of December 11 are approved. Now, with respect to the agenda item regarding the status of extending the term of the committee's work, I spoke with Nora this morning. Nora's not attending the meeting today, and Nora informed me that it is top of the list for their December 28th meeting, and she hopes and expects that we will get the extension. I think if they can get to a vote on it, we'll have the extension because all have appeared to be in favor of it. So I think we can assume that we will be working into the year 2021. Any comment or discussion on that? Okay, in the absence of that, next agenda item, the mailing of the solicitation letter to the organizations on the list, and you saw my note that I think it should get out as soon as possible. And I appended also a suggested communication. Is there any discussion on that?
It's Ellen. I'm fine with your suggested communication, but I'm questioning your response to Brian on doing it individually.
Okay.
Excuse me, versus blind copy.
Okay.
Excuse me, what's the harm in blind copy?
I'm fine with that. That's just further evidence of my generational divide between ways to send email. So I'm not looking to create more work than is necessary. And if it can be done by BCC efficiently, then I'm absolutely fine on that. That work for you, Brian?
Yeah, either one. I was just giving suggestions or ideas or options. I mean,
Okay. Any other comments on that? All right. I think Sally indicated earlier before everybody was on that we're still working on getting it out to the village mailing list at this late date. And there is also the much repeated request that I've made to also have our letter sent to village employees. So no further indication. I think the village is on board with regard to sending it to its mailing list. I don't have any confirmation or indication that the village will send our letter to village employees. And we are now almost 3 months into the term of appointment for us, but hopefully we will get some kind of answer one way or another. I personally will not be very happy if we go through the term of our office and up to and through the point of completing an agreed upon proposed new code without a mailing going to the people whom it will have such an important impact.
Could we perhaps include in the RACI matrix issues with like that itself? So that way, when we sit down with the Board of Trustees, that's noted and there's a, documentation that was requested and it was their decision whether or not to send it.
John, I don't think that belongs in the RACI. The RACI is really for a process as it supports the code. I think we can certainly document this in our regular minutes, which
Sure.
Brian has included.
I would propose that if we get to the unfortunate point of completing or near completing our work without a formal communication from the village to village employees, that we should at that time discuss it and vote on the appropriate message to the village with respect to that omission.
With the understanding that perhaps one of the solutions would be to send a letter to the board from us, possibly.
It could take different forms. It could be part of our formal report to the board, citing it as a failing. And it also could be, we could send choose your cliche, a Hail Mary, a nuclear option letter to the board saying, look, we've been asking you to do this since we created this committee. We
Mhm.
don't even have a reply from you. We're upset. We're disappointed. And that's not exactly, or I mean, that would be something, given that it will be a public document, that will be something that would not inure to the board's great benefit if we went on
Sure.
record noting that.
I would also say come January, once Nora joins us, she might be able to help with this.
Yep.
I agree. Okay, let's move on. So I would like to, I have no expectation that we will get through all of the various changes that I've noted in the emails that I've sent to you since yesterday, but we can work our way through this and until the clock tells us otherwise. Oh, before I do that, this I think would be a good time to ask you all what your preferences are for our next meeting. We're certainly not going to meet on Christmas Day. We're not going to meet on New Year's Day, both of which fall on Fridays. So we can either meet twice between now and 2021, or we can pick one day and meet and maybe make it a 75-minute or 90-minute session. So you guys tell me what your thoughts are on that.
Should we start with what you proposed? I thought you gave 2 dates, which,
I did. I think I suggested December 23rd and December 30th.
so can I vote that we maybe try and do a long meet? Can folks do the 23rd? Let's start with that.
I'm available.
So am I.
I I think I'm available.
That's your assigned tasks.
Yes, yeah. Unless I am called away by somebody more powerful than me.
We all know who that is. Brian, what about you?
Yeah, could we just meet at like 5, I guess, because it's like difficult.
Would 5 o'clock work for you all?
It works for me.
That's fine.
Sure, yeah.
All right, so why don't we say 12:23, and why don't, I think I checked my calendar before, but I'll do it again just to make sure. Yes, that works. So why don't we call it 12:23 at 5 p.m. and shoot for 75 to 90 minutes on that day. And
Sally, does that work for you?
It does.
Okay.
and under normal times, I would say, and I'll buy the drinks afterwards, but that's not going to work this time.
While
Great.
we're on this subject,
Yes.
we discuss meetings going forward, because we have 3 people who have day jobs. John seems to be around the clock as a real estate agent, so I'm not sure if any time's better or not for John. But maybe we should move our meetings to 5 on an ongoing basis.
I've emailed you all to ask about that, and of course we'll have to hear from Michael on that. But does anybody want to address that now and see if 5 o'clock works? Does that help you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There may be, I could say yes to 5 and then 5 would be a problem. So, I mean, for me, I never know, my timing is variable, so it really doesn't matter
Okay.
for me. I don't know about other people.
And should we move it from Fridays? If we're doing 5? I mean, it doesn't matter to me. All days are the same to me.
Yeah, no. I can't do Fridays at 5 in January. I can do noon. Sorry. I can do 5s at other days.
Brian, what's your situation?
Yeah, I mean, 5 is probably better going forward. If that's okay with the rest of the committee. I know we still have to ask Mr. Copey.
So if we've already agreed on the 23rd, which is a Thursday at 5, maybe
So it's a Wednesday.
I'm sorry, it's a Wednesday, yes. Maybe we propose that as a date going forward. After we're done today, I'll put out a note to you all, and because we obviously need, I think Michael's got the most pressure on his schedule. Let's see what we hear from him, and we'll have ample time between now and the 23rd to figure out what our schedule is going forward for after that. Okay. Anything else before we get into the sections? All right. If not, what I'd like to do as best as I can is go through them in order, and I'm blending in what I sent you this morning from my own editions, and also Ellen's from yesterday. So what I'm going to start with is immediate family member, and what I did there was I took the last category and put it up in front, relative residing in the household, so that the in the household does not qualify everything that goes before it. I think I've cured that, but if not, or you have another idea, please hold forth.
I'm not sure I understand why we need a relative residing in the household.
Because an immediate family member is not, these two things seem contradictory to me. Either you are a household member, you live in the same household, regardless of whether or not you're a family member. I mean, you could.
Do we want to say anyone residing in the household?
I don't.
Or do we just say a spouse, domestic partner, et cetera, et cetera?
What have I got for relatives? Let's see. Well, it's broader. Relatives is broader.
Right.
And immediate family member is let's see where we well, it looks like it only appears in the in the definitions section.
So from the model code, can I share what's defined as a relative?
Sure.
Spouse, parent, step parent, sibling, step sibling, sibling, spouse, child, stepchild, uncle, aunt, nephew, niece, first cousin, or household member. So it's kind of everything.
So it blends those two categories together.
I think so. Relative and house. Yeah.
I think that's where I got the relative definition from.
Yep.
Probably is. So
I was suggesting we keep it similar.
So if immediate family member was in the original code and I changed it to make it more inclusive, but now it doesn't actually appear in an application elsewhere in the code.
Can I apologize to interrupt. There's two attachments for the, I have two attachments. I just don't know how they differ that came through for the code for today. Does everyone have, which one are we looking through, or what's the difference?
You're looking at the last one I sent to you as an attachment.
Right, but I think it has, unless it's just how it's presenting to me. It looks like there's two of the same document attached. I didn't know if they differ. I don't want to be in the wrong one.
You got two attachments in the same email?
If I'm the only one who has that, maybe I'm carrying a thread of multiple.
I think if you,
Okay.
the very last one I sent, I hope came singly.
Okay. It had the same title, so maybe that's what.
It
Right.
would have the same title. Yes.
I was looking at the right one.
Because in the very last one, I did make some other changes, and since I sent them on the same day, well, I will still, going forward, attempt to make very clear, much clearer what the final is. But whatever the last attachment I sent you today is the current one.
Okay.
So what I was saying is that the immediate family member definition was in the original code. It was changed, but in looking in the find function, it doesn't appear to be used anywhere in the code. And if it's not used anywhere in the code, then it shouldn't be in the definition section, whereas relative has 15 citations in the code.
But going back to the original code, if we were to look up immediate family member, you're saying there's nothing in there that I'm just asking as a sort of a process question. Did we change immediate family member in our editing?
We did, John, and I think I made that change.
Right.
Because I was working my way through the code from beginning to end, and I looked at it and I said, I don't like that definition. I'm changing it. And so what I may not have done at the time is to see where it is applied.
Right.
And the track changes preserves all of the mentions of a word or phrase, whether it has been deleted or not. So I don't see it.
Oh, so you're saying in the navigation bar on the left-hand side that will keep track of all of the changes that you've made since the inception?
Correct.
Okay. Sorry, didn't understand that. I thought it was tracking in the existing format, not previous iterations.
It's not, because when I did it this morning and I was, I know that when I did it before, I'm now going to put in a phrase that I know is deleted. Yeah, you see grandchildren, for example, is lined out in this section, but appears in the navigation bar. So the answer to your question is immediate family member appears not to be in any part of the code. So the question now is,
So essentially what you're saying is we had it in the code, in the original code, and it really didn't define any, it didn't act to define anything.
correct.
So I think based on changes we've made, can we remove immediate family member and household member? They're gone. And then relative stays.
And you just have to define what we consider to be a relative. That's all.
Right.
Right, but the definition we have for relative seems to be very inclusive.
Right.
Well, yeah. In fact, probably the code, the model code definition of relative should probably be the
That's what we have.
right.
Right. So the
Yeah.
the references to household member also, there are only two entries. Although the word household is used, but household member, again, that this one's on me. I put it in there because I think I saw the word household elsewhere in the code and figured it needed a definition. But just household itself has two applications: a relative residing in the household.
Well, two of the three we're getting rid of. It's under household member.
Right.
And then under immediate family member. And I think we're suggesting both those come out. And then the third place correct is now in the definition of relative.
Yes. So, so then the question is, if we put it in relatives, and what do we define as a household member? So I suppose maybe it's maybe it stays in there because we have to if we're.
Isn't that circular though? Like I think a household member. I feel like I think that's so. I don't remember if household member was in the original code. I think we were assuming it is.
Correct. It was not.
I don't think it needs to be defined. Household member is my opinion.
Relative does it. We should take it out.
I feel like it should stay under relative because it makes it a non-relative who resides in the household, correct?
Yes.
But we're saying that counts as how we define relative.
So
And I think you took this from, wait, I do have the printout of the model code now that I've searched it a million times, not a million. It defines it as, oh wait, no, I didn't print that out. I can do it's the same. You took it from the model code, as you said.
Yeah. I guess I was looking for someone who lives in the house, but they're not a blood relation. And I did throw in dependent, but there could be somebody living in your household who's not a dependent. It's your son or daughter's significant other, who is not a dependent, but who's in effect a member of the family.
Well, I'm just cutting and pasting this because I do think they add one thing.
But I said a household member was an immediate family member in the definition. That may be cutting it all too fine and trying to be too all-inclusive.
Spouse.
Dan, can you go back to the relative definition? So right beneath relatives, you have the sibling definition.
Should all be together.
And I don't know that we need to break out sibling. Just include it, make sure relatives is all inclusive.
It says sibling in the relative definition.
Right, but the definition of sibling includes half brother, half sister. That's the piece we're missing from relatives. So we have a step sibling, we should add half sibling. And then we can get rid of the sibling definition.
Agree. And one more thing is the model code has, just as you've written, but then it says, it has one more sentence which says, individuals having any of these relationships to the spouse of the officer or employee. Instead of just the village officer, board member, employee, it includes all of the defined relationships to the spouse of the officer employee. Sounds like there was a problem.
Yeah, so somebody says, my uncle, so-and-so is my uncle by blood relation, but that is not my wife's uncle. Uncle-in-law. That's what it sounds like it covers.
Dan, would you like me to take a stab at writing this to eliminate sibling? I mean, I think we just said what we wanted to be able to eliminate the sibling definition, be able to eliminate the
So
household and immediate family member, and just consolidate them, or you feel like we need these expanded definitions?
No, I just plugged in sibling to relative. I just plugged in half sibling to relatives. So I think sibling can come out.
Yep.
And then the question is, what do we do about the person who lives in the house but who's not a relative and not a dependent? Do we care?
Well, I think you cover them under relative. You have household member.
yeah.
Yep.
But then we have to define household member.
Can we write parentheses, lives in the household, or it's really simply stated?
Then
Saying it's an immediate family member. You see, I'm assuming a household member may not be a family member. It's because we
Absolutely.
cover them as a family member in our relative definition. But if they reside in the family and they're not a family member, I thought was our concern.
or household member.
No, I think Jocelyn, you're right. You live in the family, but you're not a blood relation to anybody in the house.
So I thought relative could cover whoever's a household member who's a relative. But then in addition, we're adding anyone who lives in the household who's not a relative. And one would say, why is that under the relative definition? But it's under it in the model code too. So
What is
Okay.
in the model code? Does the
Under-
model code?
definition of relative, it says, aunt, nephew, niece, first cousin, and then it says, comma, or household member of a municipal officer and employee.
All right. Does the model code define household member?
It does not define household member. I think we did that as one extra step.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to, let me confirm that the model code does not.
Because we can change that to simply a person who resides in the home.
And that also has to reflect of a village officer, employee, or
Right.
employee, or what's the other part? Hold on.
Officer, employee, and
Board member.
board member.
And that has to be consistent throughout.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that gets back to how we figure out the who.
It doesn't define household, just so you know.
All right. So my suggestion would be to leave household member in as a defined term and simply describe it as a person who resides in the home of a village officer, employee, or board member. Okay. All right. Let's move on to Ellen, your comment in your email yesterday about should this include village consultant in this definition?
Right.
Would you explain? I wasn't quite clear on where you wanted that. So could you?
Well, if I look at all of our definitions, we have consultants who can be treated, as a quasi-employee if it's a long-term consultant.
Is the term applicable throughout? I mean, do we want?
I don't know how consistent we are. I guess that's really where I'm coming from.
Well, I know the village hires land use consultants to act on their behalf. We have people who have worked in the planning department as consultants.
And didn't we have a consultant to replace the engineer, the village engineer?
Yeah, I mean, in each of those cases, I would think that they would have to abide by the ethics regulations.
But I think, and this is where I keep getting hung up across the board. If we take the big picture and I'm back to the who, and I loved your note, Dan. Who is subject to the code of ethics? It is any hire, any board appointee, so it could be a committee, a board member, consultants, it's whether the village pays the person or they've been appointed. So that, to me, that's the broad.
There's two groups of people, or at least two groups of people that are covered by the ethics law regulations. One is everybody who is a board member, employee, or an officer of the village. And then there are the consultants that work on behalf of the village. And then there are anybody wanting a contract with the village. So there's contractual, once you enter into a contract with the village, you have to abide by the ethics regulations.
Yep. But this definition here has boards, commissions, agencies, departments, committee members, officers, employees. It just doesn't list consultants.
Right.
Where we've listed them previously. That's why I think it should be included.
I think it should say consultants working on behalf of the village.
However we want to word
Yeah.
it, but I think it's an omission is the point I'm making.
Yeah.
My suggestion on this, my first reaction in our discussions about this has been, well, let's figure out where we really want them to be included. But now I'm thinking, given that we keep getting kind of stuck on this, is to throw consultant into this general definition of officer, board member, and employee, then go through the code and see where we may not want the code to apply for one reason or another. So my suggestion is, for draft purposes and a working document now, let's add consultant everywhere we have officer, board member, or employee. And then as we go through it, see if it doesn't apply any particular place. And if it doesn't, we take it out for that section only.
That works for me. So
And
if
then, but then I think we have to define what a consultant is.
it's
Exactly.
further down, we have that definition.
But I mean, it should also include contract employees. Contract,
Yep.
contract, basically with the village, as an example, the village has land use attorneys that are contractors. They are not employed by the village. They have a contract with the village. Those attorneys, land use attorneys, or those land use professionals that are contracted out to, all should have to abide by this.
So then do we want to call it this definition that Dan just brought us to, village consultant or contractor? Would that,
Sure, yeah, I mean, I
Satisfy
just,
your
as long as we define what we expect.
John, do you want to take a crack at that definition?
Okay,
so Dan, in one of your emails, I believe yesterday, you recommended a use of an acronym, and I love acronyms. Because I think it does make it, if we include that in the definition, but I think there are probably two. One, which was yours, the VOBE, and then one where committee members and consultants are included. So as we go through, we may see if there's a difference.
Yeah.
And then if there is a difference, we call out one's VOBE and one's VOBECC. And if there isn't a difference, we use the short and sweet one.
Yes.
okay.
All right. So John will work on that. I most deliberately did not make it OBE because that would be Order of the British Empire. I lived in London in the 1980s, and I got to know all the MBE, OBE, all those various distinctions. I didn't get one, by the way.
Aw.
Okay, well, that's good. All right, 21. I'm going now next to 21. Where are you, Dan? 21 4B. Where specific village officers and employees, that should fall into what we've just been talking about. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Now I'd like to go to let's do an easy one. My note to you this morning about what I call minor notes, and I brought this up before about neutralizing the gender references in the code. What are your thoughts or any objections to recommending to, as one of our recommendations being, we take all the his and hers and hims and hers out and substituting the neutral there and them?
Fine with me.
Fine with me.
Yeah,
Great. Like I said, that was an easy one. And secondly, I've replaced, I've already done the replacement of the wills with shalls, so that is consistent. All right,
And,
and
and we're defining shall as being requiring, correct?
compulsory, yes, which exists in the model code.
Okay.
I went to the model code after that discussion we had. Okay. And as long as we're on, let's call it maybe, if not easier stuff. I'm going to go to 2118C. And what I've, following Ellen's suggestion, I've put in a new section C, and that says that when you're hired, you are, or you are hired or you're retained. The village.
And here you've left out committee members.
Well, it's going in.
Thank you.
So that everybody gets a link to the code of ethics or a copy of the code of ethics, and all business entities get it with requests for proposals. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
And if you see something that I've left out in the verbiage, let me know and I'll fix it. But that means that the day you join the village, you get the code. The day you start work, or you get it with your, get a link. You're on notice that we have a code.
Should it be like does there need to be an attestation that you've read the code, like when I have to buy an Apple product, or like I have to click something, or is that too fancy?
No, I think it needs to be confirmed.
I do too. I always ask after because I'm just new at this. So I just, I would love that it have some sort of confirmation as opposed to they just get it.
Okay. That's good. I will add that.
So if I go back to, my hang up on processes, and I know we're not supposed to bake that into this, but I know the village has recently started using a system called Power DMS. So if it's going to be distributed via that, it can be confirmed via that, but we need to make sure someone's monitoring it.
So, I mean, again, this is more than I can ask. I don't know, is the onboarding of a new employee committee member, is it automated in any way, shape, or form? Because no, it's manual. Because I don't believe in doing something if you can't monitor it, right? So I'm
Right.
with you.
So I'm not sure if this system would be utilized and what the monitoring capabilities are. I would imagine they can be monitored, but that has nothing to do with the code. It's just my hang up on a process.
We can ask, Sally, we can ask, I don't know if is that system you're mentioning owned by HR or it's owned by?
I don't know.
Okay, I can try and find out. Tell me again the name of the tool.
Howard DMS.
Howard DMS, okay. What its capabilities are?
Yep. And I
can't-
guess to your point, who the owner.
Is Sally on? Do you know Sally?
I'm sorry, I'm here. I just put my headphones back on.
No, it's fine. We're talking about a tool utilized called Power DMS. Do you know who owns the tool, or who we could ask some questions about it?
Yeah, ask Danielle Gilliard, our HR manager, and Karen Johnson. She works in the village manager's office.
Okay.
So it's K Johnson at vomny.org and D Gilliard at vomny.org. I could spell Danielle's name for you if you need.
I thought the HR person was a female.
She is Danielle.
Oh, Danielle. I thought you said Daniel. Sorry, Danielle. Got it.
Yeah, Gilliard, Gilliard.
Got it.
So it's D Gilliard. Yeah, ask them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I have also well, I've just now changed the old C to section D. And I have first of all, under B, 2118B, I've made clear that the village manager hosts, distributes educational materials, and is responsible for the development and presentation of ethics educational programs. And I've also provided under the new D below that the village manager administers the training at least once a year, and the training materials shall be reviewed with the Board of Ethics prior to the administration of such training, which I think
Perfect.
covers that concern.
Yep.
Okay. Now,
One thing that I don't know how we address it and whether it's our purview to really address it, but budgeting wise, the village will have to budget for this.
yes,
And, without, the village manager, requiring the village manager to do something if the Board of Trustees doesn't fund it is, sort of handcuffs the village manager.
yeah, that is true everywhere from the village of Mamaroneck up through the U.S. Congress.
Yeah, no, I know, but I mean, so raising it when we're discussing it with the Board of Trustees, I think will be very important because
Clearly, if we're in effect, we're saying here, you got to do this, and they've got to fund it.
right,
But apropos of how we got here, is that they gave that authority to the Board of Ethics, which almost by definition could not have funding for it.
right,
So
Right,
now-
but alternatively, the conflict of interest training class is recorded and it
Right.
is on the New York State website. So if Power DMS can be utilized, a link to that recording can be made available, that you can watch at 3 a.m. if you want.
right,
And that's free of charge.
right. And there's, I don't know if Power DMS can do this, but there are services out there that can keep track of whether or not somebody reviews the whole document or part of the document.
I think Power DMS does, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, well, Jocelyn's going to look into that.
I will find out.
All right, let's go back up to something harder. 21, customer or client. Uh, I agree. Um, under customer or client, what I've said is that under definitions, I wrote this definition, and I think John, you raised this issue as to what our definition should be, and I think you had a concern about whether the number I chose is unrealistic. And what I've done here in my email to you all yesterday is more to point out where these phrases appear and what the code is attempting to accomplish in its reference to customer or client. And if you go to, here's the definition. And then if you go to 21 4A4, and 4B1, this is where I think I got hung up a little, where it says a client appears see under B down here, a village officer, board member, employee shall not use their position or take or fail to take action with regard to a matter that he or she has reason to know may result in a personal financial gain for any of the following. No, or is it specific? Specific village officers and employees. Straight here. Lists. Customer or client. And then it says specific village officers and employees.
I think that's referencing professionally licensed.
Yeah. Now I'm sort of confused. It's standards of conduct. There's a general prohibition. And then there's something which says specific village employee officers and employees. Responsibilities. All village officers, employees, and consultants with professional licenses are prohibited from knowingly exercising any discretion in any matter which shall involve any person, firm, or corporation which is a client of his or hers, or a client of his or her firm. What does that mean? Why? And it's consultants with professional licenses. Why is there a restriction there?
Well, the first one is a limitation of 5% of the outstanding stock, right? And the second one is any business.
I guess I'm asking, what is it doing here? This section says standards of conduct, and then under A, there's a general prohibition. And then under B, it just says specific villages and employees' responsibilities. And it says they are, and it adds this term, consultants with professional licenses. Why?
Well, I would imagine that's, an architect who's on the planning board appearing before the zoning board for a client.
Why is it restricted? Why shouldn't it be any consultant prohibited from exercising their discretion? Did somebody have in mind a consultant who would be permitted to exercise their discretion in a matter of village interest, which does involve one of their clients?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I mean, so even in the example that I gave you, an architect who's on the planning board appearing for his client in front of the zoning board, he's not exercising any discretion. So that wouldn't preclude that example.
Right. Maybe this is one of those where we go back and ask somebody with historical knowledge who says, "What does this mean? What's it
Yeah,
doing?"
no, I'm given that I was on the ethics board at the time, I have no understand. I don't remember what this relates to.
Okay, so my suggestion on this one is
What is the corresponding? I mean, maybe if we go to the model code and see if there's a corresponding section, if it explains it better, and when we try to, modify the model law, if we confounded things. What's that? What section is that?
it's 21-4B1A. It's on page 4.
21-4B1A.
Correct. Yes.
All right.
And it's on as at page 4 of the code of the Mamaroneck.
The current code. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's look into this before we do anything further. We're at 1:06 p.m. Can we go about 5 minutes more? Well, how about
Sure.
10? How about if we go to 1:15? Does that work for everyone?
Not for me. I have to pick someone up at the train station.
All right. I don't want to go with fewer than 5 of us on. So why don't we? I think we've actually done a lot. So why don't we adjourn now? We're reconvening on the 23rd at 5 for perhaps 75 to 90 minutes, and I think we'll be able to work through a lot then.
Sounds good. The one thing I'll say, which you had in today's agenda, was to review the racing matrix. I think we probably need a separate session
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
And after we've made all the revisions here.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm going to do another read through of your latest round of changes and make sure I've picked up your new additions.
Okay. All right. Well, very, very, I think we did a lot. So thank you all. Have a great weekend. And, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? In the absence of discussion, all in favor signify by raising aye.
Thank you.
Raising hands.
Aye.
All carried. The motion, we are adjourned. Thank you all very, very much, and have a wonderful weekend, and see you.